You know, there's one name in history that just screams conquest on a scale that's, well, almost impossible to imagine. Genghis Khan. This guy conquered more land than the entire Roman Empire at its absolute height. But here's the crazy part. The most interesting thing about his story isn't what he conquered. It's the one massive prize he walked away from.
I mean, really think about that for a second. This was a guy who's basically an unstoppable force of nature, right? A human hurricane sweeping across continents. And then he gets to the doorstep of India, this incredibly vast, wealthy land, and he just stops. He turns around. So why? That's the huge question we're digging into today.
Okay, so to really get our heads around just how big a deal this decision was, you have to understand the sheer, brutal scale of his conquests. We're talking about an estimated 40 million deaths. That's a staggering number even today. I mean, in some places, like his war against the Khwarizm Empire, his armies are said to have wiped out something like 3/4 of the entire population. This wasn't just war, it was total annihilation on a level the planet had just never witnessed before.
And this quote, this really tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. He wasn't just some power-hungry warlord, at least not in his own head. He truly believed he was a divine instrument, a punishment sent from God. And when you believe that, well, that's what makes you so relentless, so absolutely, terrifyingly sure of yourself.
But you know, he wasn't born Genghis Khan. Before he was the punishment of God, he was just a kid named Temujin. And he was forged in the harshest of environments, the brutal Mongolian steppes. His whole journey, from being this total outcast to becoming the ruler of all Mongols, that's the key to understanding everything he did later. And I mean, talk about a tough start. His childhood was basically a brutal lesson in survival. His dad gets poisoned, and his own clan just kicks him, his mom, and his siblings out into the wilderness to die. That kind of hardship, having to fight for every single meal, it just completely shapes a person. So every move he made, every alliance, every single battle, like the one to get his kidnapped wife back, it was all building towards one thing, uniting all those scattered, warring Mongol tribes into one deadly unified force. And that's exactly what he did, getting that famous title, Genghis Khan, at this massive meeting of all the tribes, a Kurultai. But maybe the most radical thing he did, the idea that really changed the game, he completely threw tradition out the window. Back then, everything was about who your family was. But Khan? He promoted people based on pure skill and loyalty. It didn't matter if you were a noble or a nobody. If you were good, you got the job. That was absolutely revolutionary for its time.
And this one story just perfectly sums it all up. So get this. In the middle of a battle, an arrow shoots Khan's horse out from under him. After the fight, he rounds up the prisoners and asks, "All right, who shot my horse?" And this one guy bravely steps up, totally expecting to be killed on the spot. But Khan, he's so impressed by the guy's guts, and his incredible aim, obviously, that he doesn't kill him. He recruits him. He renames him Jebe, which means the arrow, and this guy becomes one of his absolute best generals. How cool is that?
So now, with all of Mongolia united behind him, Genghis Khan turns his eyes west. And what starts out as just a simple attempt to open up trade, well, it's about to explode into a massive, world-changing war. A war that's going to drag the Mongol army all the way to the edge of India. And the stage is set for this epic showdown. You've got the Mongols on one side, disciplined, unified, forged in fire. And on the other side, you've got the Khwarizm Empire, super wealthy, massive, but fractured and led by this really arrogant, impulsive Shah. It's basically hardship versus hubris. So it all kicks off with a trade caravan. Khan sends some merchants over to the Khwarizmian city of Otrar. The governor there, who happens to be the Shah's uncle, decides they're spies and executes them. All of them. Now Khan is angry, but he actually tries diplomacy first. He sends envoys to the Shah demanding justice. And the Shah's response? It's one of the worst decisions in history. He kills one of the envoys and shaves the beards off the others, which in Mongol culture was the ultimate insult. And that was that. Game over. That one single, supremely arrogant act was the point of no return. The Shah didn't just insult the Khan, he basically spat in the face of the entire Mongol nation. And in that moment, he signed the death warrant for his entire empire. War wasn't just coming, it was going to be total. The Mongol revenge was unbelievably swift and brutal. Entire cities were just erased.
The Shah himself ended up dying alone and pathetic on some remote island. But his son, this warrior prince named Jalaluddin, he refused to give up. He keeps fighting, which kicks off this incredible, dramatic chase across Asia, with Genghis Khan's army hot on his heels.
And that massive chase finally comes to a head in 1221. Khan's army corners Prince Jalaluddin right up against the Indus River. I mean, this is it. It's the end of the road. He's trapped. But in this legendary, almost cinematic moment, Jalaluddin spurs his horse and takes this incredible leap right into the river, somehow making it to the other side, into India.
So this is the moment. This is the whole point. Genghis Khan is standing on the riverbank. His number one enemy has just escaped into this huge, rich, new land that's just sitting there. It's ripe for the picking. All he has to do is cross the river. So why did he turn back? Let's get into it. Okay, reason number one, some incredibly savvy diplomacy. The fleeing prince, Jalaluddin, he asked the Sultan of Delhi for asylum, but Khan sends the Sultan a pretty clear message. You shelter my enemy, and your city is next. So the Sultan, a guy named Iltutmish, is stuck between a rock and a hard place. And what he does is genius. He basically tells the prince, oh, the climate here in India, it's just not suitable for a man of your stature. It was this perfect, polite no that got rid of the problem without actually declaring war on the Mongols. Delhi was saved by words, not swords.
Reason number two is just plain old good strategy. Look, Genghis Khan was almost 60 years old at this point. He had rebellions popping up back in the Mongol heartland that he needed to deal with. His main target, the Khwarizm Empire, was crushed. So why start a whole new, massive, unplanned war in a country he had no beef with? It just didn't make sense. His main job was to hold on to the massive empire he already had, not gamble it on a new adventure.
And the third big reason was an enemy that not even the Mongol horde could conquer, the Indian climate. I mean, these guys and their horses were built for the cold, dry plains of Mongolia. India's intense heat and crushing humidity, that would have been an absolute nightmare for them. In fact, we know that some of his advanced forces that did push into the area had to turn back pretty quick because the weather was just taking such a heavy toll.
And so he turned back. Genghis Khan would die a few years later, in 1227, having never set foot on Indian soil. But the empire he left behind? Wow. It was so much more than just a giant map of conquered territory. It was held together by some incredible ideas and, to this day, is surrounded by this amazing air of mystery. You see, his real genius wasn't just in winning battles, it was in ruling. I mean, how do you manage an empire that stretches across an entire continent in the 13th century? You invent something called the yam. Seriously, think of it like the Pony Express, but on a massive, empire-wide scale. It was a network of post houses that allowed messengers to travel at insane speeds, giving Khan the intel he needed to crush rebellions before they could even get started. It was the nervous system of his empire.
And yet, for a guy who changed the world so completely, the man himself is still a ghost. We have no idea what he actually looked like. He never allowed any portraits to be made. We're not even 100% sure how he died. And of course, the biggest mystery of all, his tomb. Its location was a state secret, so secret that legend says the entire funeral procession was killed just to make sure no one could ever find it. And no one has.
Yeah, for more than 800 years, that secret has been kept. And maybe it's protected by something more than just time and dirt. There's this chilling legend, a prophecy, that says if his tomb is ever opened, it will trigger the end of the world. Now, is it just a myth? Probably. But it feels like a perfectly epic final mystery for the man who was for a little while the master of pretty much everything.